Clear Voices of Hope is a powerful collection of voices from For the Love of Cups, Clear Pathways program, dedicated to raising awareness about the realities of dense breast tissue and breast cancer. Through honest conversations and personal stories, we amplify the voices of women who have faced these challenges firsthand, sharing their journeys, fears, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way. Each episode brings you closer to the lived experiences of survivors, advocates, and caregivers, while also featuring leading experts in breast health and women's health. Together, we break down the barriers, provide vital education, and empower listeners to make informed decisions about their own breast health. Whether you're navigating your own diagnosis, supporting a loved one, or passionate about women's health equity, Clear Voices of Hope is your source for real stories, reliable information, and a supportive community. Join us as we shine a light on the path to early detection, better care, and hope for every woman. We are in for a treat today. Today, I am joined by Kavita Bouknight. She is a trusted advisor to venture-backed startups, publicly traded healthcare organizations, and brings 20 years of experience in strategy and go-to-market execution. I'm so excited to have her here today. She is also the founder and CEO of Match Health Collective. We crossed paths in the Women's Health Advocates Group. She hosted a fundraiser that I went to recently, and that's where I got to meet her in person. And so I couldn't be more excited to have her on the show because she brings such a wealth of wisdom in the healthcare space as a patient, as an advocate, and as an advisor to some of the greatest companies out there. She's the founder and CEO of Match Health Collective, a full-service marketing agency that helps medical device and life science companies build brands, accelerate clinical adoption, and engage patients and physicians. She also leads Match Health Collective, which develops programs and tools to drive meaningful engagement and make complex health information more accessible through video and text-based communication, which sounds like something we all desperately need to close that information gap and the knowledge gap. So we're all speaking the same language and wanting to have the same goal in mind, and that is wellness between patients and their doctors. So Kavita, thank you. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here on Clear Voices of Hope. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what brought you here, and then I'll dive in. I'm really curious to know because much like you, women's health has been, and my own experience has informed a lot of the work that I do. So I suspect the same is true for you, having a background in women's health as well as medicine in general from a corporate standpoint and from a patient standpoint. And so really want to dive into those experiences that shaped your path into this world of health, patient advocacy and health innovation. But first of all, welcome. And I'll let you say hello and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate this opportunity to have a voice here in your platform. Really appreciate that. And in terms of background, gosh, I think where it all started was, it's kind of funny actually, growing up in an Indian family where my parents were immigrants from India. Many of our family friends went down the path of being engineers or going into the medical field. And I decided to take a little bit of a tangent and go down the business route. But I knew I wanted to help within the healthcare realm, but not necessarily be a physician. And so I decided, you know what? Hey, let me do this from a business standpoint and make a difference and an impact. And so decided to work in the medical device space. Thankfully, I was exposed to that with my husband. He, told me about potential companies to consider. And so I ended up starting in this field over 20 years ago after I got my MBA. And like you said, I think what's really helped shape my career is honestly the personal experiences that I've had, the health issues that I myself have experienced or my children have experienced or other family members. And that's helped inform what I do, how I do it, and actually just be more empathetic in terms of understanding how to bring the business world and actually humanize marketing at the end of the day.
The human aspect of it is so easy to get lost. We're busy as humans, but also our care providers are also under a tremendous amount of pressure. And I think we often forget that. And if we could all just give each other a little bit more grace, it might help ease the journey for everyone involved. Um, but support means so much, and I think you really found a special place in this field that is so needed, based on your experience, seeing the gaps in that space and just seeing how important that is. I was thinking about this as well, that you're in what they're now calling as am I, this sandwich generation, although I might be aging out of it now onto the other side, where you have children at home that you're caring for, and then you also have elderly parents that you're caring for, and then there's you in the middle. So you're really getting a taste of the entire medical system, from pediatrics to elderly care as well as yourself, and how all of those systems even operate so differently, never mind ourselves and our own care, and the disconnect trying to find holistic care. I just wondered what comes up to you when you think about that.
Oh my gosh, it's so disparate, just all the experiences. And well, first of all, I never even thought about what the sandwich generation meant. It's not like you fast forward and think, oh, I'm going to be taking care of my parents as well as my children. It's just not even something that's in our mindset. Uh, but it is a real thing. And it is pretty taxing. And I guess I just really just never anticipated. I probably spend an equal amount of time caring for my parents than I do on my children, or even more time, sorry, which is crazy. So my father has late stage dementia, and he had been until recently living with us for the last 15 years, and that had progressed
Mm,
quite a bit. And
wow.
then my children were born premature. I have twin boys, and
Mm,
they are now 15, gonna be 16, and they're doing great, but they
yeah.
have definitely faced their own health challenges, especially
Yeah.
early on being premature children.
Mm,
They were in the
yeah.
NICU for a short time and then the special care nursery, and so, you know, not only have I seen, like you said, the things that come with dealing with pediatric care and then all the way to elderly care and what that means on us, especially in this culture. I think what's so difficult is I believe in other cultures, coming from family that I've seen in India, is that it's very much a generational community. We take care of our,
Mm,
of our community, our families, because everyone lives so close together. Here in this country,
yeah.
you tend to live further apart, right? So even if you do have
Yeah.
good family support, they might not be located near you. And so it just becomes a lot more taxing. And then also support and care is so much more expensive here, right? To have someone to come in and help with like cooking or laundry or any of the things that you need for support. And so I I don't, like I said, think I could appreciate how taxing this would be at this phase of my life, and then how disjointed. There's no one to really help you manage the meds, manage, for instance, as my dad's progressing with his dementia, understanding how to, he basically was becoming a toddler. And,
Yeah.
how do
Mm,
foolproof the house? How do I make sure there's sensors on the door that he doesn't keep the water running? Right? So there's
mm,
all of these things that you don't anticipate, but there aren't cohesive services that can help you
right.
with this. They're all disjointed and you have to go and find them. I think that's probably one of the hardest things about this.
That makes a lot of sense just hearing it described that way. And you're right. I know based off of my own experience, that's absolutely true. And you're often in a place of distress when you're having to figure some of this out. Like none of us really plan, or we don't even really know what to plan for. But you kind of have to figure it out as you're going along, but also while you're under a bit of duress, a bit of stress trying to figure it out. And so that part alone, is huge, and yet you still need all this other support to lean on, um, and do some of those basic tasks that we take for granted. And I just want to say I'm so sorry you're going through that. I I can relate in many ways, and it's a lot watching our parents age. It's hard on the heart. So
I think that I was gonna
just
say
thinking
that's probably
about
the
you.
hardest thing. It's just so hard to see your parent become a shell of the person that they once were. I think
Mhm.
it's just like they're falling and you're trying to, like, grab onto them and keep them with you as long as you can, but, uh, the disease kinda just progresses, so it is equally a physical thing as well as an emotional, uh,
Mhm.
distress, right, to see your parents like that.
Yeah. It brings me to a question about communication with your care team, with all these different systems, and the treatments that you're seeking. Whether it's been for you, your children, your parents. Um, this piece about the engagement and communication part, and why I'm curious why that piece specifically is where you decided to put your efforts and wanting to fill that gap, that piece being just as important as the treatments.
Yeah, I think communication is really the key, honestly, to everything in terms of even at the fundamental core of any relationship, right? So, having a relationship with your healthcare provider or anyone else, being able to have communication to understand what you're going through in a journey. I find that whenever we've had a diagnosis in the family or we're faced with some major medical condition, I think the first feeling that you have is isolation, and you just feel like you're
Mhm.
alone because you feel as though you're the only person going through that, and it's not very clear if there's others who are experiencing the same thing.
Mhm.
I think what's different, let's say when
Yeah.
you're pregnant, you can find groups of women who are, going through that at the same time. But there's been many times in my life where I've had different experiences where I can't go to my healthcare provider and say, "Hey, do you have other people in your panel,
Mm.
your patient roster that I could talk to who are going through something
Right.
similar?" And you can't because of HIPAA compliance, right? And so it has long been a desire for me to find ways in which patients could feel connected. At the heart of
Mm.
what I do for my job is marketing, and marketing is essentially making sure people are aware of technologies and understanding
Mm.
how they can help them and make their lives better.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you could have the greatest technologies, but no one knows about it, and so then it's not helpful, right?
Right.
And so that is really the crux of why I do what I do, because I see such amazing advancements that are made, but
Mhm.
then the end user doesn't know about it or maybe doesn't even want to use it because they don't know how it would benefit them, right? And
Right, and they're
so
too overwhelmed sometimes to know because you are getting inundated with so many things and how to communicate that this is something that's actually gonna really benefit you and help you when you're in that moment of already overwhelm.
exactly. And so again, my whole entire career has been focused on this very piece. And so whether I'm working with a company to say, "Hey, how do we make sure we're evoking the right emotion and that you
Mhm.
communicate what it is that you do?" And it has led me into projects and programs like Spark, which is a
Mm.
patient engagement tool that we have, which is automated text-based messaging that
Mm.
are pushed out to a patient along their particular journey. So let's say they're gonna have a joint replacement, procedure. We would set up automated text messages that take them
Mm.
along their journey that says, "Hey, prior to your procedure," you would get like text messages that say, "Hey, how to prep for your procedure, things to
Mm.
consider," a text message to say how to questions that you might wanna ask your physician, right?
Mm.
Because most patients have at best 15 minutes with their provider, and during
Yeah.
that time, they are being bombarded with whatever information, and 80 to 90% of that they will forget.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
right?
Definitely. Yeah.
And,
From
right? And it's
experience, yes.
And you're also dealing with the emotional piece of, right? You're going
Mhm.
through whatever condition, you're overwhelmed, right? So my goal was to say, "Hey, what are some ways in which we can leverage existing technology that's out there?" Everyone uses text messaging. We all are like tied to our phones, right? And so Spark is essentially a program that leverages that technology in a manner that engages and sends out these bursts of information called sparks along the patient journey that are timed at the time that the patient actually needs it and cares about it.
Mm.
So we
Oh
know
my
your
goodness.
procedure date. So then let's send you messages
Wow.
before and after, um, with information that's timely, engaging, and personalized.
Oh, I love this. Oh, that's really cool. I have not heard about this. So I'm hearing this for the first time, which I really love the way you've designed that. How incredibly cool. Um, and helps you stay on track. I imagine there's some tools and resources that go along with it, to track some of these appointments and the information that you're getting. And have it be a spark. That's I love the name too now that I understand what it's doing. When did you develop this?
So there's been an evolution, but it's something that's been brewing for the last few years. But
Mm,
where I have been positioning as of late, just because I have a personal passion towards this, again, having been in this space for a long time, where I've seen,
yeah.
uh, I guess, the biggest challenges are med device companies and their clinical trials.
Mm,
Clinical trial enrollment and retention tend to be really big sticking points. You can ultimately get funding, but if that trial doesn't have success in terms of finding those patients, getting them to actually consent, and then actually
mm,
having them stay through the entire trial with all of the follow ups,
right.
that is critical to a device company making,
Uh,
or pharma or biotech, quite frankly, it doesn't matter. Clinical trials are critical in really getting approval for a product or a therapy. And so
mm,
we are now positioning this tool, Spark, to be used for clinical trials so that we can get folks to, because you might learn about a clinical trial, but then you might not want to consent to it, right? You want to learn more about it. So we push out timed, constructive, personalized content that tells you and informs you about the trial, what the
mm,
therapy's for, why you should consider it to then get you to consent. And then once you're in the trial, you could have 12 months go by between, the window of time for your follow up. And during
yeah.
that time, though, we send uh, information that actually helps you manage your chronic condition or
Mm,
your therapy and enhance your therapy, whatever that might be, so that we're constantly engaging with them, giving life science companies a direct link to the patient. They no longer have to
mm.
just rely on the site, the care coordinators, or a CRO. They actually have a direct link to the patient at that point.
You're bringing up so many things that I had just never thought of before, but that is an incredibly crucial piece is that continuity of care.
Yeah. Once a patient is identified as a potential candidate, we absolutely can leverage the Spark platform to really bring them and engage them. But to your point, yeah, it's this whole continuity of care, and Spark just allows it to be more, human touch points, like to
Mm.
feel like they're a part of a broader holistic care team.
I love that. If you don't mind, I want to get a little bit more personal here because on your patient journey, I know recently you had a mammogram, and because we're focused on the dense breast tissue here, I want to hone in on that for a minute because I think you had a unique experience given your background in healthcare and given your background as an advocate, that I found really interesting. And so I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what that was like for you.
Yeah, no problem. I had my annual mammogram and I was notified that I have, dense breast tissue. And the previous year, they said, oh, I need to go in for some additional testing because they saw some abnormalities. And so I ended up getting a follow up mammogram. But during any of this time and communication, I didn't even know that I should get some secondary screening, like an ultrasound or whatnot. No clue, never educated on this, which is shocking to me because I'm in this space, right? This is
Mhm.
if I don't even know about this, and this is like the world that I'm living in, I'm breathing in, I'm paying attention to, I'm educated on, and I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, how have I missed the boat? And I'm also living in a, and in an area that's pretty well educated and has advanced care. And so I was really just surprised that this is something that I wasn't aware of and was like, wow.
Yeah, and not only not aware of, but wasn't even told once your medical team was aware of it, what you should be doing. They just you got a letter, but and something where did you find out that you need that they had found something?
Oh, I had gotten a call. So the previous year, I had gotten a call saying there is an abnormality. Because you have dense breasts, we should do a mammogram again. So I did a mammogram
Oh,
again, and they did it, more targeted or whatnot. And again, this is not
hmm.
even. It
Yeah,
didn't even occur to me that I should do something else because they didn't indicate that. And then
right.
this
I mean,
year,
they seemed like they were doing their due diligence, which is odd that they would just have you come back for another mammogram, even more targeted, knowing they knew you had dense breast tissue. So, yeah, the whole thing sounds very confusing and uh, misleading in many ways that if we don't even know what to advocate for, how are we supposed to advocate for ourselves? Which is why we do what we do, making sure women know what to even ask for, because sometimes it slips through the cracks and our care providers don't actually even know.
yeah, and I mean, being in this business, I will say, physicians are under incredible amounts of pressure.
Hmm.
They don't have a lot of time with each patient. They're, focused on all sorts of metrics and forced to abide by certain measures. But they are human at the end of the day
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
don't have the ability to focus on and learn about every new change or advancement, right? Which is why, I'm in marketing to help educate
Hmm.
those physicians the same as patients. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
It is important that patients understand this kind of information because you wouldn't even know to advocate for it. It didn't even dawn on me that there was, a
Yeah.
secondary type of screening that I should do until you and I met,
Mm.
until we had those events. That was news to me, which was shocking.
Wow. Wow. Um, I am sorry because it's still shocking to me when I hear like someone like you say that they didn't know. Everybody knows what a mammogram is, right?
Right, right.
So, and I want dense breast tissue to be that that common of a knowledge, that common of a, oh yeah, we start at 40, we start our screening. This is part of the process. I want everybody to know this information that you have dense breast tissue. A mammogram, even a 3D mammogram, is not going to be your best tool to scan your breast, especially if you're stage 3 or 4. So there's 4 stages of density: A, B, C, or D, and C and D are the most dense, and those are the ones where the guidelines recommend additional screening. So stage 1 or 2, they don't necessarily recommend additional screening. It's certainly something you can advocate for, but the C and the D being the most dense, you should really talk to your care provider around having an ultrasound or a breast MRI. And so there's pros and cons to both that you can discuss with your care provider. I won't get into all of that now, but that's the information that I want to just have it everybody just drilled into them so that it's just common knowledge. Given the fact that 50% of women have dense breast tissue, we should know these things. We should be able to, our girlfriends should know, our moms and our daughters, we should be having these conversations and have that be common knowledge. So I'm really grateful that you shared that with me and that we got an opportunity to connect on that and just kind of remind me again that, yeah, I do this every day, but, there's so many women we still need to reach to make sure that when they are at their office, that they can say a breast MRI, which one would be better for me, and just ask more questions, be more diligent, until you get the care that you deserve.
No, absolutely. I really appreciate that education. No idea that there was different stages or density categories. So just knowing that, I'm definitely going to go back to my care provider and ask for that. So
Yeah,
good to know.
absolutely. Um, and it is its own risk factor. Having dense breast tissue is a risk factor, as well as making it harder to see on a mammogram. So it is really important, to even though it feels uncomfortable, to just ask those questions. Maybe even if you feel like you're being annoying, you have to be the pattern interrupt at your own appointment sometimes.
I feel like after 40, there's like a layering on of extras. It's like our checklist of like things that we have to do is goes on and on. So it's all good.
Oh my gosh, I completely hear that. I'm also curious, because I do have a lot of female entrepreneurs in my audience, in my personal uh, leadership coaching space, and I feel like you're such a crossover, much like I am, all these multi passionate things, but really one driving force behind the work that I do. But um, that moment when you decided to start your own organization, when you decided to start Match Health Collective, I'm curious about that journey for you, what that was like branching out on your own like that. Was that an easy decision? Was it a hard decision? Is it something you knew you wanted to do eventually and kind of targeted that, or how did that evolve for you?
That's a great question. I did not anticipate the way it has evolved. And I, being honest, I love entrepreneurship. Always was starting my own business once I was little, have started numerous types of businesses. But taking the leap to start my own agency was scary. You just don't know if people are going to hire you, if they want you to, if they believe in what you're able to do. And, you kind of almost have to fake it till you make it mentality, right? And so, like I said, it was scary. But I decided to make the leap of faith. I figured, you know what? This is the time of my life. I should try it. And worst case scenario, it doesn't work and I do something different. But I think what it has allowed me is a platform to do so many other things. And I would say to whoever's listening, entrepreneurs, definitely start whatever it is you want to start. Just know that with business or anything in life, it has to evolve and it will change. And
Mhm,
so whatever I started intended and with intention in mind has changed because of market dynamics or the
mm,
needs of the people who are around me or life stage that you're in. And so I think it's important. Some of the best businesses that are built to last evolve. And so I just think
mm,
it's important to make sure you are listening to your environment and yourself to say, "Hey, what makes the best business sense?" And so I say
mm,
that even from a business perspective, right? We've moved into peer-to-peer education, patient engagement. Spark is a tool. This wasn't something that was born at the inception of the agency, right?
mhm.
But it's just
Yeah.
making sure you listen and evolve.
Do you mind if I dig in a little bit deeper?
No, please do. Feel
This
free.
I could jam out on entrepreneurship for a very long time, so I don't wanna get too derailed, but it is an interesting and important conversation. When this evolutionary piece that you're talking about, I can speak from experience as a 10-year entrepreneur. Um, it's when you have a vision that you're holding so close in your heart, right? Like, this is your vision, it's your baby. You're the first and only one to see it in the beginning. It's just you working on it, trying to share this idea. And it sounds easy. Like, of course you're going to evolve. Of course you're going to do these things. But in those moments, it's it can be really hard to recognize in the moment because sometimes you are so focused on what that initial idea looked like, or even just the part of like letting go of the idea a little bit. Maybe it's not completely right, but it is changing. And so you've got to let parts of it go while you develop a little bit of something new. Um, and for me, I know that that was in many ways, I felt like, "Oh, I failed at something," or I felt guilty about something, or, I don't know, it wasn't always easy to evolve even though it sounds like it sounds lovely, right, on the surface, but what's happening behind the scenes is sometimes a little bit stickier. I'm curious what that was like for you.
I think it's constantly happening in the sense that,
Mhm.
you know, your business has to change and it will never be stagnant. It can't be, or else you're not going to win. And so I
Mhm.
think as long as you keep your base like ethos of what you want and what you believe in stays the same and you stay true to that, I think whatever form factor it comes in is what you need to be open to. So,
Mm.
at the end of the day, I wanted to really focus on marketing for
Mhm.
uh, the companies that I work with. There were, let's say, times where they would ask me if I have capabilities in a particular area, and I didn't. So then I would say, well, I could have just let it go because I'm not comfortable with that area, or I
Mhm.
could try to grow and create that as an offering.
Mm.
And so there was
Mhm.
one experience where naming was a piece. I was having clients having to figure out, what name they would want to name their products. So I
Mm.
actually brought on a member of the team full time who had spent her, time with a branding agency that was solely focused on naming. And so
Mm.
she was able to bring in expertise and help us
Oh,
create a
wow.
methodology around naming and, really make that a part of our organization in terms of, a framework, thought process, methodology. And now that's a really big part of our business in terms of
Mm.
understanding that a name really is one of the best ways to market a product,
Mhm.
technology, a therapy. And so, again, it was something that I didn't even think I would know what to do. I was overwhelmed at the prospect of that. And I wanted to make sure we were providing an amazing service in that capacity. So I thought, okay, let me figure out how to become an expert in this and bring on that
Mhm.
talent. So that's
Ooh,
just one
I like
example.
that. You were smart to bring in outside talent. I think sometimes we feel like we also need to have all the answers, and I think the smartest thing we do is realize when we don't and when we need support, and we can bring in somebody that does. I like that for a lot of reasons. Um, I think that's another one that's hard to get over as an entrepreneur. At least I hear that a lot in the work that I do, and I have certainly in the beginning I felt that way, where I felt like I needed to have all the answers, and I know that's not true anymore. And what a relief it is to just acknowledge that I know there is somebody that has them. Let me go get them.
Yes, yes. I think the greatest uh, skill that I have is just knowing what I don't know and finding the
Hmm.
right folks and bringing them on the team and
Yeah.
making a well functioning team work
Oh
and
my
getting the
gosh, that
most
might
out of the talent that you bring.
Yeah, I think that might be the biggest wisdom of gold that I could tell any entrepreneur is exactly what you just said right there.
For sure, for sure.
What changes do you hope to see in women's health over the next 5 to 10 years in patient advocacy?
I think it's one of those things where I hope it's not even something that we call out and saying women's health. It's just health for humans, right? And that women
Mm,
are part of that, but that we are no longer a niche that you're servicing. Rather, we're
mm,
half the population and we are equally represented in clinical trials, equally represented in research and funding, so that there
mm,
isn't this laser focus on women's health. It's the wealth,
mhm.
it's the health of humans who make up half of this world.
Yeah. Well, and there really is a movement happening right now. I don't think it's just us because we're in the industry. I think there is a genuine, real movement around women's health right now where it is getting a lot more funding than it's ever had before, more visibility, more conversations. And for you, somebody that's been in this industry for a little while now, I'm curious what that has felt like from your standpoint.
Oh my
And
gosh, it's
does that feel
amazing.
true? Does that even feel true?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't even think this was in our dialogue years
Mm,
ago. It's certainly just even topics of menopause or
yeah.
perimenopause. none of these things were being discussed or acknowledged. So I think that there's just definitely a movement. I see it. I feel it. It feels great. It's amazing. And it is definitely something that did not exist. I've been in this space for over 20 years, and this was
Mhm.
not a topic that we were talking about 20 years ago. And
Yeah.
certainly not focusing on these topics, breast cancer awareness. Yes, there was a piece of that, right? And
Mhm.
that might be breast cancer awareness might be the one that actually had a bit more
Mhm.
marketing brouhaha over it than some of the other areas. But even that topic, people have become a lot more educated, and there's, focus around that, like dense breast tissue.
Mhm.
Um, but it's really nice to see actually, and I really hope to see more of this.
Yeah.
There's just a genuine desire on the part of folks to see more movement in these areas. And actually, uh, I want to see more entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, or men who are starting women's health companies get more funding, have more
Mhm.
research set aside, and actually get women into these clinical trials. Because
Mhm.
it's so sad to see that there's not representation. It just doesn't even make sense to me. But there is a shift, and I'm excited to see the momentum grow.
Mm. Yeah, same. And I think seeing what we're seeing with so many brilliant women and funders coming together and collaborations happening, I think that's really the way to get this done. And I'm happy it's that I see that I'm seeing really great partnerships happening. I'm seeing really wonderful cross collaborations happening. It feels like a very ripe and fertile environment right now where people are really wanting to learn from each other, but also support each other. And so that excites me, and that's what makes me feel really hopeful about the momentum that it has right now.
And I think what I really love is, like, for instance, the Women Health Advocates Organization. What's so great about that
Hmm.
and what Liz is building is that it's an opportunity to do something tangible. So I
Yeah.
do feel like I can do this in the work that I do, but beyond that, it's what brought you
Hmm.
and I even together. I would not have necessarily even
Yes.
crossed paths with you, right? And so
Right.
it's bringing folks together who might not otherwise come together, who all
Hmm.
feel the same passion that we all have. But then there are tangible things that we can do to reach out to other representatives in our government, right? Writing letters and being a
Yeah.
part of, in some capacity, Capitol Hill days. These are things that I wouldn't have even had exposure to, and knowledge or find ways meaningful. I guess it's just what I
Hmm.
love is that there are meaningful ways in which to
Yeah.
truly make an impact.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Liz is incredible. Women's Health Advocates is bringing together some really incredible women. Like you said, I got to
Yes.
meet you through them, and I will leave links in the show notes to find them. I do on every single one of these shows. So hopefully, if anybody's listening to this, you don't have to be in the healthcare space to join. You just need to have a passion for wanting to advocate and to learn. But even if all you do is write a letter, I want you to know that that's actually incredibly impactful. These letters matter. So there's always links about what letters and what initiatives are happening in the moment and how you can support. So would absolutely encourage anyone to go and do that. Before we close out our conversation, Kavita, I'm wondering if there's anything you want to share that feels on topic for today or a message that you want to leave our listeners with.
I guess I would just be to say that your story matters and that everyone has a story. I feel like as we all have gone through something, a health scare, either personally or within our family. And those lived experience really shape who we are
Hmm.
and have an impact on how we interact with the world. And I guess I just would want to say you're not alone and your story
Mm.
matters.
I was thinking about that actually when you were talking earlier about that piece where you can feel very isolated and alone. And Even when I remember getting diagnosed with breast cancer, like my mom had had it, people I knew had had it. I knew I was well supported, and yet I still felt alone, like, because you're the only one going through it in some ways. Um, and so I think finding people that are going through it with you, and I think what you're doing is really helpful in that way to just help people ground into what that journey um, will feel like, and just that piece of connection is sometimes really all you need is just one little lifeline, to help you remember that you aren't alone, right? Just you aren't alone. There are other people going through this, and that you do have support. And sometimes all it does take is that little spark.
Yes. A perfect way to summarize all of that. Yes, that perfect spark, and yeah, you are not alone.
Kavita, thank you so much for being with me here today.
My goodness, a pleasure. Thank you so much. It was great to be on this, and really just want to make sure we share it to the world and all that you're doing with For the Love of Cups and Clear Voices. So I just wish you all the best and hope this momentum continues to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited for what's coming for both of us. Both of us are doing some really incredible things. What's happening with Spark and Match Health Collective. It's just good to know good people out there doing incredible things. And so I'm so happy to be able to include you.
Oh, thank you.